On today's show, which Atlantic Division teams have the best and worst goaltending?
As a hashtag goalie-friendly show, we rank each team's goalie depth and who the top 10 tendies are overall.
This is Brady Kachuk, and you're listening to the Locked On Senators podcast.
You're Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome! You are locked on to the Ottawa Senators, the only daily podcast covering the Sens. On the outskirts of enemy territory, I'm Ross Levitan, alongside Brandon Piller up in the Blue Mountains. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Football season is around the corner. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your future bets now. Today is Wednesday, August 27th, and Pilsy, Sens fans are everywhere. I had the pleasure of visiting Cabot Cliffs last weekend, and I met not one, not two, but three Ottawa Senators fans working at the club.
That's awesome, Ross. I never would have guessed you were at Cabot just recently with the Cabot hat and the sunglasses tan. So that's a complete shock to me and the rest of the viewers here.
Man, the sunglasses tan is such a tough look, but it's a badge of honor. I had a good time.
No, it's sick, man. For me, I'm not a big golfer, so the relative tan for me would be a goggle tan. If you're snowboarding all day, the sun reflecting off the snow, you get that goggle tan.
There's a little glove tan too, but not as pronounced, which is probably better. And good thing I'm not wearing the Vipers or anything. Could you imagine the sunglasses tan if I had those things on?
Yeah. I mean, that's not really your style, I don't think anyways. So.
No, it's not.
Leave that to Mitch Marner.
Man, shout out Nova Scotia. What a beautiful place, beautiful part of the country. And all I heard from the Sens fans at the club was, we're going to win around this year. Expectations are rising very quickly in Ottawa, and rightfully so. At the end of today's show, we'll quickly touch on the new addition to the Ottawa Senators, a signing from outside the organization, as well as a re-signing with Jan Yannick signing a one-year extension. That leaves Donovan Sebrango as the only RFA. But today's show, it's all about goalies. We've been the goalie-friendly show for years, and it has been difficult at times with the Ottawa Senators trying to find the next Craig Anderson, going through almost every single option they could. They went young, they went old, they went vet, they went redemption arc, and finally, they went with a legit number one. Linus Ullmark finishing his first year in Ottawa with a very respectable 25-14-3 record. Pilsy, it looks even better, though, when you consider how bad November was for him and the team.
Yeah, I mean, if you could take November statistics out of all Ottawa Senators players from last year to 2019 feels like this team would be, all their stats would be much more sparkly, much more shiny, but we can't do that. But Linus Ullmark did have a solid season overall for the Sens. Finally, an Ottawa Senators goalie with a goals against average under 3 and a save percentage above 9. I feel like it's been a while since we've had that, or at least had that with some consistency. There's been some goalies that had a couple games here and there that were able to get okay numbers, but Linus Ullmark is the goalie the Ottawa Senators needed, and they didn't waste any time acquiring him in a trade and then signing him to that extension, which kicks in this season, Ross. That's a big jump for Linus Ullmark salary cap-wise.
And at least he's going into this first year of a contract already knowing that this was his value to the organization, right? It's not like that increased pressure is going to be right away, despite the paychecks every 2 weeks looking a lot shinier than what it was the year before. It's not like Jeremy Swayman, for example, who held out, got the big deal, and then failed to live up to it. And some would say, yeah, missing camp, that's a big problem. He didn't start the opener. It was Korpisalo, and then just couldn't get his feet wet. And also the team in front of him was not the same Boston Bruins that he had played for the couple of years prior. So Linus Ullmark's got his big deal. And the Senators' backup, Levi Merilainen's got his first one-way contract in the National Hockey League. So the Senators' goaltending, it seems set. But then you remember Mads Søgaard is on the second year of his contract, and his contract also shifts to a one-way ticket. So it
Yeah.
does add at least a little bit of an element of competition in training camp. Merilainen doesn't need waivers either. So despite being on a one-way contract, he does not need waivers.
Well, and they added Hunter Shepard. So there's another goalie in the mix there too. So it's going to be interesting to see how camp goes. I think it's going to shape out the way we all expect. All-mark starter, Levi Merilainen backup. And the Ottawa Senators, I forget if it was 14 or 17, but I counted the back-to-backs they have, and it's quite a bit. So that at least gives me some satisfaction knowing that Levi Merilainen will get or should get a decent amount of games, because like I've mentioned, I don't think it would be beneficial for Merilainen's development to have him play 20 games in the NHL and just be sparingly used. He needs to have a decent workload. Otherwise, I'm not going to say it will set him back, but I think the more games he's playing, the better. And hopefully we can see a little bit more of an even split than a lot of the teams in the Atlantic Division have, where it's a clear number one guy and then a clear backup. I'm not saying go tandem style, but it's going to be interesting to see how the Ottawa Senators handle Linus Ullmark's workload this season.
Linus Ullmark started 43 games last season, which means there were 39 games unaccounted for in the starter's role. Forsberg had 27 starts, Merilainen had 11, and Mads Søgaard had 1. So let me throw an idea at you then.
Hit me.
What if, and I can already feel the tomatoes being pulled off the vine, winding up at me. If Mads Søgaard has a good camp, would you not rather him sit on the bench and have Merilainen start in Belleville and then have Merilainen come up when needed? Because he can go up and down. Mads Søgaard needs waivers. And I know that the injuries have piled up. We know the NHL sample size has not always been friendly to Mads. But if you think a team isn't going to claim a 6'7" goalie at 23 years old, the only reason why you might be able to sneak him in is if he gets claimed, he has to stay on an NHL roster. That's the one piece of the puzzle that could keep what we all expect to happen. I'm almost playing devil's advocate, but you mentioned Merilainen playing games. The most opportunity that he's going to have to play games in October and November is likely going to be in the American Hockey League.
Yeah, absolutely. And what does the AHL have some sort of big break in February when the Olympic break happens, or no? Maybe just like a little all-star break. Because it'd be interesting to see if that's another way where Levy gets some more games in as well.
He's not playing for Team Finland at the Olympics?
Probably not. You had me there for a second. I was like, wait, no, I don't think he will be.
Schedule as usual in February for the Belleville Senators.
Okay, so yeah, so there's ways that we can get Levi Merilainen playing games. Now, ultimately, best case,
Mads is probably at the Olympics with Denmark.
Yeah, as the backup behind Freddie, that very well could happen. Yeah.
So,
true
to think about.
Yeah, but I think, Ross, what we're kind of getting at here is the Ottawa Senators are at least in a spot where goaltending isn't going to be the glaringly obvious position of weakness that will hold them back from success, as it has been in years before this, right? Like Korpisalo and Forsberg, I don't think anyone was too confident that was going to get it done, although I think one of my hot takes involved both of them as a tandem. Talbot, you were hoping for a spark. Murray, you were hoping for the redemption. Like, it's just so many years where like gambles and hopes and bounce back opportunities, whereas it feels like this is where the Ottawa Senators want to be. A former Vezina winner that's signed to a good deal, an up-and-coming guy in Levi Merilainen. So I'm excited about how the crease looks this year, even though I had been on record multiple times being like, I think it's too soon for Levi to be the backup. I'm coming around to the idea.
Yeah, every time he played, he made it easier and easier to see a world where he is the number 2, not only long-term, but right now, despite only being 23 years old. On the other side, we'll get to our Atlantic Division rankings 1 through 8 in the entirety of the goalie depth for each team. Then we'll get to our overall top 10. We're also going to touch on the top 8 coaches in order in the Atlantic Division. That's all coming up next. You're listening to Locked On Senators, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at Monarch Money. Look, let's be honest. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. Don't do that. That's why there is Monarch Money for you. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Let Monarch do the heavy lifting for you. Link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. So don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONNHL.
Today's episode is brought to you by our very good friends at the GLEBE Central Pub. Catch every game, every night at the GLEBE Central Pub. You can find them at 779 Bank Street. Let them know that Locked On Senators sent you, and go enjoy the vibes that are absolutely free at the GCP. Now, it's easy to say that, but how do you get in the mix? Well, every night they've got something going on at the GLEBE Central Pub, whether you head there on a Monday and you get the wings, because they got wing deal all day and all night. Trivia goes on Tuesdays. You can bring your crew and put your knowledge to the test. Wednesdays, open mic night. So whether you play, sing, or just want to kick back and listen, it's a great way to celebrate Hump Day. Thursdays are all about cheap tacos, and all roads lead to Saturday night, where it features live music with no cover ever. The GCP is also walking distance from Lansdowne, so next time the Red Blacks are kicking it around at TD Place Arena, the field there is also just TD Place. You can do that, either start your night or end it at the Glebe Central Pub. The next Red Blacks game is September 5th, so head down early and make yourself comfortable at the Glebe Central Pub. So whether you're heading there to watch the game, live music, or just a night out with friends, make Glebe Central Pub your home base because, as you know, the vibes are free at the GCP. Shout out to the everydayers who make us your first listen each and every weekday here on the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm Ross Levitan. That is Brandon Piller. And we also, if you missed it, have done our 1 through 8 rankings on every position in the division. The defense on Monday. Last week we did wingers and centermen. And now it's time to get to the goaltending. And how much did you weight the starter in this exercise versus the depth, as we did quite a bit, especially on defense and the other positions?
Yeah, the starter was very heavily weighted, in my opinion. Like no spoilers, but some of the top teams have elite number one starters and questionable, if not bad, backup goalies. I mean, I feel like that's fair to say. But then you start thinking, Ross, okay, well, sure, the starters are so good, but injuries happen. What if there's an injury here and now that bad or questionable backup is now the number one guy, and now the number 3 guy's got to be the backup? That changes the whole dynamic. So the injury issue is tough to navigate around because it's so dramatic when it comes to goaltending depth, but I still think the number one elite guys are that good that they deserve to boost their team big time.
I agree. And with that, let's start at the bottom, as we have for this exercise at every position, and it is the Buffalo Sabres. Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen is the guy who got the lion's share of the starts last year, even though James Reimer was better than him statistically. Alex Lyon comes in after being with Detroit last year. He gets the role as the backup as they await Devin Levi, who was so highly touted coming over in that trade for Sam Reinhart from the Florida Panthers. Levi just has not been able to make it work yet at the NHL level, but still a ton of potential for the 23-year-old goaltender who had a great year last year in Rochester, but an .872 save percentage in the NHL. So let's start with Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen. What does he need to do to raise the stock of not only himself, but the Sabres net situation?
I mean, really, UPL hasn't had a lot of success overall in his career. His best year was not last year, but right before, where actually he had like a solid year in 54 games, 2.57 goals against, 910 save percentage, 5 shutouts, and a 27-22-4 record. But apart from that, like Ross, you scroll through his career and it's a lot of goals against in the threes, save percentages below 900, and losing records. So I think it's tough when you've got a young team that's struggling to have success in front of you, but we just haven't seen a lot of consistency from Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen. And when you're talking about the number one guys on the rest of these teams in the Atlantic, unfortunately, it's easy to say that he's at the bottom.
Yeah, he did start the most games in his career with 55. He went 24, 24, and 5, but an .887 save percentage is one thing. He also had 16 starts where he had a save percentage below 85. Can't be doing that as a starter if you want to give your team a chance to win every single night. You got to be stopping more than 9 out of every 10 shots, and that's why the Buffalo Sabres come in 8th. Alex Lyon, perfectly fine backup. I know you mentioned him as an option if Ottawa was going out to get a veteran, but I don't think he moves the needle nearly enough for them to move up from number 8.
No.
Coming in at number 7, it's the Montreal Canadiens. And Samuel Montembeault had a fantastic year last year. I think he really opened some eyes as a guy who could be a starter at the National Hockey level. Got some love from Hockey Canada, being the 3rd goalie at the 4 nations. But in this division, he's not one of the top 6 goalies. And the backup they got, again, it's a stopgap or a stopcap, Capo Kakinen, while they wait for either Jakub Dobeš to be a full-time NHL goalie. And he had some moments last year, some really good moments in the NHL. And then they've got Jacob Fowler, who turned pro at the end of this year. So I think if you're looking at a more long-term 5-year outlook, Montreal might be higher because Jacob Fowler is widely considered one of the top goalie prospects in the world. But if we're going into next season, they're a Samuel Montembeault injury from needing Jakub Dobeš to find the magic that he had at parts of last season.
Yeah, and Dobeš is decent, but again, a young goalie there. And Montembeault just has 2 years on his deal at 3.15. They signed Kakinen to a 1-year deal at 1.15. So I don't think they're quite ready to have Dobeš take on that backup role like the Ottawa Senators have kind of set themselves up for. And that might be a good thing. Sam Montembeault can handle a large workload. He played 62 games last season, 41 the year before, 40 and 38 as he was kind of introduced as Montreal's starter throughout the years. So I think he's a solid goalie, and he's had some really good games up against the Sens, Ross, specifically game 2 of the season where we went to Montreal. We thought Linus Ullmark was going to stand on his head. It was a bad night for Ullmark and an amazing night for Montembeault. But I mean, this is where I can finally be happy in putting Montreal in their place lower in the division in positions of strength, because they're just not there yet. The potential's there and they're planning properly for the crease, I think, but they're not there yet.
No, and they'll need Montembeault, I think, he'd be even better than he was last year if they want to take another step in the right direction. So Montreal at 7, Buffalo at 8, which means coming in at number 6, it's the Boston Bruins. Jeremy Swayman has had amazing success at times in the National Hockey League, but he also just has not done it consistently enough this last year. Really took a wind out of his sail, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm a known Swayman doubter. I know he's put up some big years alongside Linus Ullmark when Boston was a really good team. But I think last year, the contract dispute, starting late, having a much different team in front of him, I think that showed a little bit more of who he was. Now, I don't think he's as good as he was in those years, and I don't think he's as bad as he was last year. I think he's probably somewhere in the middle. But you look at Korpisalo being the extra guy. Sens fans know what that's like. Korpisalo actually had an arguably better year than Swayman, which is kind of ironic. But then they've got Mikey DiPietro back there as well, a guy that they're hoping can turn into a player for them. But overall, the goalie strength is not that great in Boston, and they're paying a lot of money for Swayman and Korpisalo to be not that great.
Yeah, having Korpisalo, $3 million per season. Ottawa's eating $1 million of that as well for the remainder of the 3 more years left on that contract. But they're going to need a bounce back from Jeremy Swayman, no doubt, unless they want to be at the bottom and try for another high pick in the McKenna sweepstakes. But I think this is fair based on how last season went. Swayman now with a chip on his shoulder and is going to need to prove something if he wants Boston to be higher on this list when we do it next season. I would almost argue that number 8 is in a tier of its own, and then it probably goes to a single tier for the next few. But what's the order of it? We'll discuss next. You're listening to Locked On Senators, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. The NFL season is almost here. I'm fired up. I know you are too. And FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers, you can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get up to $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love FanDuel because it fits how I like to bet. They got player props. You can build same game parlays. You guys know Pillsy's parlay of the day, or even jump in live as the action unfolds. It makes every game more exciting, whether you're watching your team or you're just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. It's quick, easy, and the best way to add a little more energy to Sundays. I love the FanDuel app. So easy to use. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet.
All right, Pillsy, right back to our countdown to the top goaltending tandem in the Atlantic Division. So far, we've got a situation where Buffalo is in 8th, Montreal is in 7th, and Boston sits in 6th. Coming in at number 5 is the Detroit Red Wings. John Gibson comes in. Huge acquisition for them this offseason. They've got the veteran Cam Talbot as the backup, and Sebastian Cossa, he's been in the minors now, it seems like a couple of years, and getting better each one of them. I still think that he's going to take a little bit longer as one of those big, rangy, athletic goaltenders, but he's a first-round pick for a reason in 2021. So I think they've probably got one of the best third-string options, definitely the best third-string option that we have here so far, but they also have one of the biggest question marks. What does John Gibson look like outside of Anaheim? Nobody knows, and we're going to find out soon after years on the trade block.
Yeah, Stevie Y continues to make me scratch my head, Ross, because you mentioned how good Sebastian Cossa is, and the Detroit Red Wings easily have the best fourth goalie as well in Trey Augustine. Like, they just have, he's addicted to collecting goalies. They have so many goalies. None of these guys are going to get the opportunity they need, in my opinion, and it just creates so much confusion. But overall, a tandem of Gibson and Talbot is actually pretty decent, in my opinion. Gibson had a good year because finally the Ducks are figuring things out and they're getting to a stage in their rebuild where they're getting better, not worse. And I think he was highly motivated to have a good year to get out of that. How many years in a row have we had to deal with John Gibson trade rumors out of Anaheim? So finally he gets his wish. And then Cam Talbot, look, Sens fans, say what you want about Talbot. Didn't work out the way we hoped, and traded Gustafsson to get him. But he is a solid, consistent goalie. And when he's in the net, you feel like your team has a shot to win. Is he going to steal games? Maybe not, but he's solid. And then, yeah, we'll see what happens with if any of the young goalies are going to get an opportunity with these two vets in the way.
Yeah, like John Gibson could easily have a great season. It wouldn't surprise me at all. I know we were very low on the Red Wings D-core as a whole, but John Gibson's no stranger to playing in front of a bad defense, has done it the last number of years with the Ducks since they had, remember when the Ducks had Cam Fowler, Hampus Lindholm, I'm missing a bunch of guys, but they had a pretty good decor, and it all crumbled right in front of their eyes.
I like their decor now, though.
Yeah, but now it's young. Now it's starting to reboot to hopefully get back, if you're a Ducks fan, to where it was. But when Gibson was in his prime there, he was playing behind some amazing defenses. Like Gibson, from when he came into the league red hot, won his first 3 games, only allowing 4 goals, all the way until
that was like 20 years from now. Or
that
20
was
years ago.
12 years ago.
Okay.
But if you go for his first 5 seasons in the league, first 5 full seasons plus that 3-game sample, he had a .921 save percentage, dude. Like he was consistently a very, very good goalie. But as the Ducks got worse, his numbers got worse. Feels like he's been in the league forever. You mentioned 12 years since his rookie year, but he's 31 years old. Like it's not like a Cam Talbot, you're acquiring him at 35 years old.
Yeah.
So I really like that acquisition by Detroit, and we'll see how he does in Detroit. That leaves number 4, and we went with the Ottawa Senators. I actually think it's pretty close between Ottawa and Detroit. I think Ullmark is better than Gibson, but I also think Cam Talbot's more proven, obviously, than Merilainen, and I take Kos over Sogard as well. But we weighted starters more heavily. Linus Ullmark with a Vezina trophy in his back pocket 3 seasons ago. And then he looks, 3 seasons ago. 2 seasons ago, it was Hellebuck. Last season, it was Hellebuck. But I just loved what I saw from Ullmark once he settled into Ottawa. That stretch in December was elite. The stretch in March when they needed to win games to make a playoff push, he was the difference maker on a number of nights. Heck, Wings fans could just go to the game against Ottawa where they peppered him with 48 shots and lost the game 2-1. That's why Ullmark, to me, pushes Ottawa into number 4.
The Wings didn't win that game, Ross. I swear I have a picture in my head of them celebrating as the clock's done, but the scoreboard says 2-1.
And it says final on the scoreboard.
Yeah, that's a weird one, huh? But yeah, Linus Ullmark, I think, Ross, he needed some time to settle into Ottawa as well. So once he got settled, things really turned around for him.
I was just going to say, and Gibson might be in that situation here with Detroit.
Yeah, true. I mean, a one-team guy his whole career, and Anaheim, a little different than Detroit, Michigan. So, yeah, we'll see how that goes for John Gibson. But now Ullmark's the guy. He's been here a year. They made the playoffs. He's got the extension. The family's all settled.
Sick new setup.
Yeah, new gear. So, yeah, I'm very confident in Linus Ullmark. And I think, honestly, Ross, the wild card for the Sens is how the workload's going to be shared. And can Levi Merilainen keep the Cinderella run going, or is it going to turn into a pumpkin once he gets a bigger sample size? And if things don't go amazing for Levi Merilainen, I think Sens fans are probably going to panic, but we got to remember how young this guy is. We got to remember the small sample size he's had in the NHL. So yeah, I think we're on the same page with Merilainen. Ross, is be optimistic, but let's not expect him to continue that stretch of success over a longer sample size at such a young age.
It's also worth noting that Sebastian Cossa is 3 months older than Levi Merilainen.
Yeah, wow.
Merilainen's 3 months old. They're full draft apart, but Merilainen's an August birthday and Cossa is a November birthday. So they're 3 months apart. Again, Levy is 3 months older. His 2020 draft, Cossa 2021. But in terms of the trajectory of development, a 3rd-round pick versus a 1st-round pick, you got to love where Merilainen is at right now. And we obviously touched on Ottawa's goaltending more at the start of the show, so we can move on now to number 3. And it's the Toronto Maple Leafs. Anthony Stolarz has become a legitimate number 1 goalie in the National Hockey League. His workload is the only question. The numbers sparkling. Both last year in Toronto led the league in save percentage, .001 better than Connor Hellebuck. And then they have Joseph Woll, who is a very legit, I would say, 1B goalie.
Yes.
I don't think calling him a backup is fair.
No.
So we put Dennis Hildeby, who's still an RFA right now. I don't think the 3rd goalie really matters for Toronto's positioning here. The fact is, they're the first team that we have here that have 2 proven, you could say Detroit has proven options,
definitely.
but I think more proven, legit options than Detroit.
Yeah, well, yeah, I don't know if I'd agree with the wording of that, but their tandem is stronger and has better potential than the Wings tandem, I would say, because we hummed and hawed whether to put the Sens above the Leafs, but it was tough when you look at the body of work that Stolarz had last season. Sure, less than Allmark, and then going up head to head in the playoffs, like it was.
Yeah.
We really hoped that Allmark would turn his playoff woes around, but Anthony Stolarz stole the show.
Yeah, he's the better goalie.
It wasn't even close.
If you're curious about Gibson and Stolarz, though, they did play on the same team for a number of years. And the last year they played together, Stolarz had a 917 and Gibson had a 904.
Yeah.
They're the same age. How crazy is that?
Wow. Yeah, I would not have expected that.
No, that surprised me. So, yeah, that's enough of, cheerleading the Toronto Maple Leafs, but Stolarz is legit. Like, the numbers are ridiculous. And they really have been his whole career. Like, he just hasn't played enough games. He's played 142 games, but only 116 starts. He has a career 917 save percentage. Like, he's 6'6". He moves well. He's big. You could say he protects his crease well. Ask Ridley Gregg.
Yeah, he's got about 3 pounds of tape on his stick to cover that top corner.
Yep. He's a good goalie. And that's why the Toronto Maple Leafs come in at number 3. But really, and we'll get to the top 10 goalies in the Atlantic Division, the top 2 obviously lead the teams that are in the top 2. And at number 2, we've got the Florida Panthers. Sergei Bobrovsky, Daniil Tarasov, and they acquired Brandon Bussi this offseason. He was in the Boston Bruins organization previously. A bit of a down year for him, but he had been elite in the American Hockey League before. They go out and get Daniil Tarasov, who I've convinced myself is going to become the heir apparent to Sergei Bobrovsky, despite having horrible numbers with the Columbus Blue Jackets last year. He's a big goalie. Ottawa, like Matt Palo scored his first NHL goal on this guy as well. Right in the crease. Right in the crease.
What a stat.
You like that stat, eh?
Yeah, that's great. I like it.
But Sergei Bobrovsky, he feels like he's getting better with age. And I know you could say like a fine wine. Apparently, this guy buys 2 of his defensemen a bottle of nice wine after every shutout. So just like the wine he buys his teammates, he's getting better with age as well. Not quite at number 1, but like you could argue he's top 5 in the entire league. And I wouldn't turn my nose up at that at all.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Sergei Bobrovsky's career arc is crazy. Like the ups and downs, like the highs have been very, 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 very high. Hall of Fame high, Vezina winning trophy high. And then the lows have been questionable with he had hip surgeries and is he going to be able to bounce back from this type of injury, all those kinds of things. But yeah, he's proven to everyone that he is worth the $10 million price tag that he's had since the day he came to Florida as a free agent. And then Tarasov, I'm not sold he's going to be a good starter, but I mean, he's just got to back Sergei Bobrovsky up. He's going to learn a lot from him. So yeah, they're going to find a way to make that work.
Remember when Sergei Bobrovsky was on like the list of worst NHL contracts?
Yeah, like he was sinking that Florida team for the first couple years of that contract.
Yeah, his first year there, he had a 900 on the dot save percentage and only played 49 games and won 23 of them. Like,
yeah,
he has revived his career and he is a Hall of Famer, right? Like
easily. Dude, I think, doesn't he have 2 Vezinas?
Yeah, 2 Vezinas, 2 cups.
Yeah,
yeah. Sergei Bobrovsky is a stud.
Yeah.
And that's why the Florida Panthers come in at number 2, because there's studs and then there's franchise talents. And that's where Andrei Vasilevsky finds himself in my personal list of NHL players. Andrei Vasilevsky, Jonas Johansson, and Brandon Halverson take up the depth in goal for the Tampa Bay Lightning, which to me is at number 1. This tier is a 2-pronged tier. You could say that Bobrovsky's recent playoff success pushes him ahead of Vasilevsky. They're tied with 2 Stanley Cups each. Vasilevsky, obviously younger. I'd say more athletic, even though that's not taking away anything from Bobrovsky. I'd say Vasilevsky is the most athletic goalie in the National Hockey. This guy caught a shot behind his back not too long ago. Like, this guy is incredible. So, yeah, Tampa Bay, number 1 for me in goal.
Yeah, and I think people kind of thought this is maybe when Vasilevsky would start the downfall of his career, but I mean, he started 63 games last year, 38, 20, and 5 record,
And he was
218.
hurt at the start of the year.
Yeah, and we all thought that was going to really
put
last
year.
I think that might have been the year before.
Yeah, it was.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he had a down year that year, right?
Yeah, it was, well, for his standards,
For him.
yeah, 900 on the dot. Yeah, much lower.
Yeah, so I think people thought, hey, this injury affected him. How's it going to go long term? But he bounced back big time. 218 goals against, 921 save percentage, 6 shutouts, and yeah, he's just so good.
Yeah, it was 2 seasons ago that he missed the start of the year. We should know that because Ottawa lit him up for 5 goals in his 4th start of the season there in that 5-4 win. For some reason, his numbers against Ottawa in his career are just not good. For whatever reason. He's got an 895 career save percentage against Ottawa and has still won 12 out of 20 games.
Crazy.
Yeah, but he's a stud, and there's a reason why Andrei Vasilevsky is the best goalie in the division and heads up the best goalie depth list as well, which brings us to our top 10 goalies in the Atlantic Division. Number 1 is Andrei Vasilevsky. Number 2, Sergei Bobrovsky, and that's a tier of its own. Then I would say the next tier runs, you can organize this however you like. I'd say Linus Ullmark, who we have at number 3, Anthony Stolarz at number 4, Jeremy Swayman at number 5, and John Gibson at number 6. Do you think that's a fair tier, or would you include Montembeault in that?
No, I think that's where that tier cuts off. It is funny how we put Ullmark ahead of Stolarz in the goalies, but had the Leafs ahead in the depth. But I think that's fair.
Yeah, Stolarz definitely outplayed Ullmark in the playoffs. There's no doubt about that. We're relying on more of the long-term track record of being able to play more games every single year and still produce numbers. This guy, the Vezina is the separator for me.
Yep.
And say what you want about that Bruins team being elite. Well, you could argue that Stolarz' last 2 years that have been exceptional, still much further back in save percentage than Ullmark's Vezina year, and he played it behind the Florida Panthers and the Toronto Maple Leafs. So I still give Ullmark the edge, but it is very close. More close than Sens fans and maybe other fans, not Leafs, would like to think, because Stolarz is the real deal. At number 7, we have Samuel Montembeault. Number 8, Joseph Woll. Number 9, Cam Talbot. And I think some will raise their eyebrows at us putting Levi Merilainen at number 10, but you just saw the list. There's a pretty big drop-off after number 9 in terms of guys who have either been in the league a long time or had a consistent track record of performance. It was basically Merilainen or Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen at number 10.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say. There's only one team omitted from this list, and that is the Buffalo Sabres. And I feel like that's fair. I feel like we know who UPL is, and that's probably going to stay consistent. So at least Levy has a potential for upside.
It would have been Merilainen, Luukkonen, Alex Lyon, or Jonas Korpisalo. Those would have been the next guys up. So I don't think we're going so far off the deep end by putting Merilainen at number 10. Those are top 10 goalies. Now, they always say, show me a good goalie, and I'll show you a good coach. And here are our Locked On Senators top 10 coaches right now in the Atlantic Division. And I will say we gave a deciding vote to veteran presence in some situations.
Yep, that's fair.
Number 1 is Paul Maurice. Hard to argue that.
Well, I don't know. I think you could make a case that John Cooper and Paul Maurice are very close. John Cooper, when you look at his resume, it is insane that he's never won the Jack Adams, because the Jack Adams award just goes to who's a new coach that went on a team that missed the playoffs and they made the playoffs that year.
That's actually wild that he's never won.
Never.
The year. Has Paul Maurice won it? Maybe this
with
last
the Hurricanes, he won it.
He might have won it this last year. I don't know. Can I find it? No.
Who won it this year?
Sick.
Oh, the Capitals guy, right?
Oh, Spencer Carberry. Yep.
Yeah. Well, perfect. Well, I was going to say perfect example. The Capitals did make the playoffs the year before, but they got swept easily by the New York Rangers. And they were one of the worst teams in plus-minus differential to make the playoffs in league history.
Paul Maurice has never won the Jack Adams.
Wow. And he's been around a long time. This guy started coaching at a very early age with the Hartford Whalers. This
year, he will reach 2,000 games behind the bench as a head coach.
Yeah. Crazy. I know maybe you have some Paul Maurice fatigue, Ross, with him being in Winnipeg, and then obviously Florida is all over the news, but I've always been a Paul Maurice guy.
Yeah, Paul Maurice, 27 seasons as head coach in the National Hockey League, 1,930 games, the second most all time. Only Scotty Bowman is ahead of him by 211 games going into this year. Paul Maurice, though, it feels like there's no slowing down for him. Like there's some thought when he left Winnipeg, was that it? But like he's caught that Florida air, and it is doing him wonders. So yeah, slight edge to Paul Maurice over John Cooper, despite, I mean, if you're going by most like successful entire coaching.
Yeah, look, what's John Cooper's win percentage? It's got to be one of the best ever at a certain threshold.
It has to be. I don't have it pulled up in front of me, but I can tell you like versus everybody else. But his winning percentage is 0.568.
Oh, I thought it'd be higher.
I mean, Paul Maurice is 538.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to get into the 60s. Yeah, fair.
Yeah. And now Paul Maurice is a little different because obviously he coached a bunch where ties were a part of the equation.
Yeah, wow.
But yeah, John Cooper comes in at number 2. Then we went with Craig Berube at number 3 with the Toronto Maple Leafs. We went with Todd McClellan at number 4. The Detroit Red Wings PK was brutal last year. It was bad before Todd McClellan. It was still bad after.
Well, dead last. That's how bad it was.
Second last after McClellan took over. But the power play was first in the National Hockey League after he took over just after Christmas. This to me is a toss-up, but why we went with Martin St. Louis over Travis Green. He's got a couple extra years of experience there, and this is almost a backhanded way of saying that he did more with less.
Well, yeah, and there's a bit of bias, Ross, as he's one of your favorite players to ever wear a Senators jersey.
Oh, come on. I still think that was a great Ring of Honor pick. Ones that he got away. It was ones that got away. Travis Green, we put at number 6. Lindy Ruff at number 7, and Lindy Ruff is actually third all-time.
I was going to say.
1,856.
Yeah.
He's made the playoffs twice in his last, 8 seasons in the league.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I want it to be known we respect Lindy Ruff. He had an insane run with the Buffalo Sabres back in the day. Ironically, now back with the Sabres. But just his recent work has been okay. The only thing I think about Lindy Ruff recently, Ross, was remember when he was in New Jersey and the season started and all the Devils fans were going, "Fire Lindy," and it was so loud they all wanted him fired, and then he ended up having a really nice turnaround and they went on a hot streak. Sorry, Lindy. That was actually all time. But and then Marco Sturm, no offense, but he has 0 NHL games coached, so who knows how that'll go. But I like that move for the Bruins. It switches things up a little bit.
Yeah, and they bring in a guy who used to play there as well. He knows the pressure, the circumstances around the Boston Bruins organization. Yeah, they want to get younger, but they're not a team that's willing to go full rebuild. They want to get back to being a successful Original Six franchise. So that's our list of the top coaches right now, and that wraps up our positional review of every Atlantic Division team. Again, you can find all of them available wherever you get your podcasts. Pillsy, final thoughts on today's show. I'm going to pick the topic for us, and that is the newest addition to the Senators organization. It's a good Ottawa lad, former Gloucester Ranger, Upper Canada Cyclone, Brockville Brave, and captain of the Iowa Wild last year, Cameron Crotty, right shot defenseman, former third-round pick. More depth on the right side.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised by this, Ross, adding in another defenseman, but this is a good guy to bring into the room, an Ottawa guy, like you mentioned, captain of a team. So I think this is a nice addition to that room, and they needed some veterans on that back end, as we've talked about. That's a very young D-corps in Belleville, but we'll see how this affects Donovan Sabrango, the lone RFA unsigned. Did Max Annette sign?
I was just looking at Max Gannett. No, Max Gannett has not signed.
Okay, because you said that Sebrango was the only guy, and I thought I must have missed
dumb.
the Gannett move. No, all good. So there's two guys, Sebrango and Gannett, that they probably didn't love seeing that contract come through.
No, I was just about to say the same thing. How does that affect Max Gannett? Do you think it does at all?
I think it does. Yeah, absolutely. Now,
so are we putting Cam Crotty ahead of Max Gannett right now on the depth chart?
I mean, right now, yeah.
Is Cam Crotty ahead of Lassie Thompson? I don't think
so. No. Lassie Thompson is an absolute legend. He led his team in goals in the SHL last year, Ross. Come on.
That's super impressive.
I mean, it actually kind of is.
Yeah, no, it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, Cam Crotty, I just think that for him, it's about being a veteran. Like, if he could be like a Hubert Labrie, would be perfect, or a Dylan Hetherington in Belleville. Like, those are the type of guys that you want Cam Crotty to be. He's also former college teammate of Brady Tkachuk with Boston University as well. So, welcome home in a sense to Cameron Crotty, and we'll see if he gets any NHL games. He had one last year with the Minnesota Wild, and the year before had one with the Arizona Coyotes. Those are his only two National Hockey League games.
Yeah, so we'll see how this affects Belleville overall, and if we're going to hear some more Belleville news. I'm pretty sure Belleville actually tweeted out the Senators account that there's some big news coming. So I wonder what that's going to be. Can you quickly check their Twitter if they've got that? If not, maybe we won't get in time. But I will say my final thought, Ross, is the season finale of Ring of Honor coming up on Friday. Our last topic, me, Ross, Martian, it's going to be drafting the current Ottawa Senators players. So that
the core. So I think we're doing it more of a long-term outlook, though. It's
okay. Well, I omitted core because I wanted to leave that open-ended to whoever we like. I think it just should be open-ended. Why does it have to be core?
Okay. Well, because then people are going to think it's right now. And if you put Carter Yakimchuk ahead of certain guys, they'll be like, oh, not right now. But basically, if there's an expansion draft and you're taking from the Ottawa Senators, what's the order?
All right.
I think that's how it should be.
Okay. Well, we'll discuss.
We'll discuss, and we'll do that on Friday. Jan Unique signs 1-year deal, 2-way contract, and I like him as a potential fourth-line center if they need a call-up throughout the season.
Well, and Ross, they had to keep him because Belleville's center depth is lacking. Like, if they were going to let him go, that would really crumble the way that forward lineup would go for Dave Bell. So I like that re-sign.
Yeah, it looks like Stephen Halliday, Jan Unique, Oscar Pettersson, if he stays at center. They also obviously have options to move Wyatt Bongiovanni or Garrett Pilon to the middle of the ice. And then Philip Dao is on a one-way AHL contract as well. He plays center down there. So I'm excited for Belleville season as well. And the news is coming out at 2 p.m. Eastern. So we'll tweet that out at Sens Central when it becomes available. Thanks so much for engaging, listening, watching, and enjoying the show. Please leave a 5-star review wherever you get your podcast. We'll have the final Ring of Honor on Friday, and then it's organizational value rankings, it's interviews, and it's the preseason coming up so soon. Oh, and Pilsy, you forgot to mention, we have a bonus episode coming on Thursday, the top 10 Sens prospects right now, because we are your team every day. That's Brandon Piller. I'm Ross Levitan. We're a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.